tell us about, you guys took a test drive when it comes to the new Neo. You guys liked it.
Yeah, we've been testing out this new MacBook Neo, $600, $500 with an education discount. It's a great machine. It uses an iPhone chip from 2 years ago, which is able to power you through some light 4K video editing, some light AI apps, but most importantly, this is for students. This is for people who don't need all the power of a MacBook Air or a MacBook Pro. They're basically doing web browsing, they're doing Facebook, they're doing Instagram, they're doing iMessage, they're doing email, they're doing documents, they're using Google Docs, they're using Gmail, right? All the basic apps that you're using on your phone, but you want that keyboard, trackpad, and bigger display. And the price point is quite aggressive for Apple. You know, traditionally, they've not done sub $1,000 machines. This is sub $600. So this is a pretty big deal for them.
I mean, I would imagine this is something that many people have been waiting for. I just think back to my college days, and you're going to find a laptop, and you know the MacBook Pros are always $1,000 plus, and it felt like an investment. So I'm curious, you know, as you got to do this test drive, what's different about this device as opposed to some of their main devices that we know very well?
Yeah, I mean, it has a slightly smaller screen than the MacBook Air, so a 13-inch screen versus a 13.6-inch screen. There's also the 15-inch model of the Air. The speakers are a bit weaker. The processor is clearly not as fast. It doesn't have a backlit keyboard. The display quality is not as good. But it will do pretty much everything you need it to do if you're a student or someone who considers computer work going on Facebook and doing email and some web browsing, right? I mean, 90% of the world, I would say, uses computers for very basic tasks, all things considered, when you compare that to all the things you can do with AI and video editing and what have you. So this is going to meet the needs of a lot of people, and I think this is going to put the Windows PC laptop market and the Google Chromebook market both in precarious positions.
Hey, is it all about, though, being a big revenue generator for Apple, Mark? And I also do wonder how it is, you know, in terms of kind of starting to bring a different part of the consumer base into the Apple universe. So they maybe buy this and then they buy something else.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's both. So it's going to accelerate Mac revenue for sure, because it's going to bring new people into buying the Mac. But more importantly, this is going to be a gateway drug, so to speak, to the Apple ecosystem. You'll buy this Mac, and then maybe you'll buy an iPhone, then maybe you'll buy an iPad, then maybe one day you'll buy a higher-end Mac, maybe an Apple Watch, maybe AirPods. And you know, once you get into the Apple ecosystem, how hard it is to leave the Apple ecosystem. So it'll make them revenue in the short term, but more importantly for them, it's going to make the ecosystem even stickier, because now, in many cases, maybe a person's first computer won't be a PC or a Chromebook, maybe it'll be a MacBook Neo.
Well, what other colors do they have? I'm looking at the article that we have on the Bloomberg terminal, and I didn't even realize that they had a variety of colors for a laptop.
Yeah, so that's a first for them, having sort of these more fun colors. So you have that flagship color, which is they call it citrus. It's a combination of yellow and green. There's also a indigo blue, so it's sort of like a dark blue. That's my favorite one. You have your plain silver, which of course you need, and then you have your blush pink. To me, it doesn't really look too different than silver, but they swear it's pink. And so that's an offering there too.
Mark, what pushed them to do this? I think that this is something that people have really been pounding the table for years, over a decade even. I'm curious what made them finally do it.
I think it was that a bunch of moving parts and pieces came together for them to be able to do this. It wasn't that they were pushed to do it, it was that they finally had the pieces to be able to do it. Having the ability to run Mac OS on ARM silicon, so non-Intel chips, that was the big innovation of 2020. Apple moving to its own chips for the Mac, which meant rewriting Mac OS to work on its own in-house silicon, which is based on the iPhone processors. So the software story. The second piece, having those chips from the iPhone 16 Pro from 2 years ago being manufactured for the last couple of years. The longer you manufacture, the more chips you're able to create, the more efficient you're able to get the production process, and the cheaper you're able to build those processors for. So it's the software story coming together and the chip story coming together. And then the third thing is they've long been developing this new aluminum manufacturing process that's more efficient and cheaper, allowing them to save some of aluminum scraps and reuse it. So all these cost efficiencies and efficiencies was what was able to align for Apple to release this product.
Hey, so they've got this going on, Mark, and so tapping into another piece of the consumer market, if you will. But you write in your Power On newsletter over the weekend that the company still plans to push deeper into the higher end with more ultra devices. So they're not giving up on that.
Oh, no. This is I would say this is a blip on the radar here. Obviously, they'll continue to invest heavily in this Neo line. I think eventually they'll expand the Neo line with new versions. Obviously, you have the iPhone 17e, so that's a mid-tier phone. This is Neo's a low-cost phone. New Ultra products, so not necessarily named Ultra, but in that higher tier. So you'll see a very high-end MacBook Pro with a touchscreen and OLED display tech in the fall. You'll see new AirPods as early as this year or next year with built-in cameras. Those will be a higher-end version of the AirPods Pro that exists today. They're working on a large foldable iPad. So Apple is trying to hit all price points now, but certainly the premium is the focus.
I just am waiting, Nora, and Mark knows this because I've talked about this a lot and Tim. I'm just waiting for them to get Siri straight.
Oh, please, that would be wonderful. I was just yelling at my Siri this morning.
I don't know. I don't even know where to go with this. Hey, you have another story out there on the smart home display. Another delay, or what do we need to read? Is this trouble, or is it just?
It's exactly what you said. It was that the new Siri needs to be functional. It needs to be released. It needs to work before this hardware product can come out. Because if you release the hardware product before the new Siri is ready, it's just not going to work properly. It's not going to function as intended. And in addition to having a lot of criticism around their AI, you're going to have criticism now around their hardware products as well. And so that's the last thing they want.
So why have they been struggling so much with Siri? I just want to dig a little bit deeper into that. I'm curious,
How much time do you have?
You said, which phone do I have?
No, how much time do you
No,
have?
how much time do you have?
Well, tell me what you know.
Well, this is a fundamental thing for Apple. They've struggled with Siri and AI development for many years. They didn't believe in AI being a core component of devices and device operating systems, even when companies were moving in that direction 3 or 4 years ago. They were completely caught off guard by ChatGPT. They had management issues. They had issues where they didn't get enough of the GPUs necessary for training. They overbuilt on their own processors for the Apple Intelligence Cloud. So just a string of different problems that all led to Apple Intelligence not being that compelling of a solution.